Another episode of Plat Chat head-to-heads with myself, Sideshow, and Matthew Morello, the man with the beard and the microphone and the black backdrop. And do for the love of God, do you ever wear anything other than black? You only ever wear black?
Yeah.
Do you ever go out in the sun? Don't you feel really warm?
It doesn't make me look as like pale and ghosty like you. Like, look at you. Like, you are. I mean, if you had a light on you, they wouldn't even be able to see.
I've actually been out on my balcony fairly regularly trying to soak up the sun's rays in order to stop myself becoming transparent in this quarantine time.
Well, I guess I don't have to go out because I guess there's no sun out there.
There is sun out there. It's LA.
If you've been soaking up the sun, there ain't no sun out there. It must be cloudy in LA.
All right, let's get to our discussion of the day. It's Coach of the Year for 2020. We've had this discussion about MVP, and we talked a little bit about Rookie of the Year as well. Coach of the Year is much harder generally to be able to say. Outside of the year where it was really clear that Krusty just dominated the competition because the San Francisco Shock made an amazing team out of a team that hadn't really done anything. It's normally pretty difficult to tell what a coach does with a roster.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult because we don't really get a ton of insight into how the teams like weekly prepare. We have a good relationship with some of the teams. You do with some, I do with others. So we have a better knowledge of like how those systems operate. But over the course of the whole league, it's very difficult. And I feel like this year specifically, you don't know what the responsibilities of some coaches are. Like, are there some coaches who are trying to like come up with the meta for the next week? Or like, is it a full team effort? So I think this one's a little bit harder to pick. I like Rush from the Paris Eternal. I think a lot like how I kind of mentioned like XC potentially if he was still around, like as a dark horse for MVP.
Yeah.
I think what Rush has done with that team, and specifically the kind of the issues a lot of people had coming into the season with that team. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to mesh well as a mixed roster, etc. And they've played phenomenal. I think Paris has definitely been a nice surprise. I would say Kookie and the Florida Mayhem, getting that team on track. I mean, hell, nobody would have wanted the Florida job. I mean, no matter who the players were. And Kookie's gone in, and they, it's a lot of the players. I mean, they make a few additions in the offseason, but it's a lot of the players that were there towards the end of last season. And he's done a very good job. They're a competitive team. They may be one of the best in NA. And then I think you look at like Packing 10 maybe from the Valiant, and then I think you look at KDG from the Fusion.
You're just about to name every coach in the league.
And then I would look at DPay. I would then look at who's the coach of Guangzhou, you know.
Do you know what? I actually have forgotten who the coach of Guangzhou is.
You don't even know who's coaching your own team.
It's not my team, Matt. It ain't my team. Let me look up who the coach of the Guangzhou Charge is. I always forget this because previously I know that Curry Shot was on it and a lot of people were giving it. Jin and Ty Dollar. Yeah. Jin is a former player as well. He used to play for AF Blue way back in the day, but yeah, this guy used to coach Metabellum, and then he came over there. Yeah, I
like Rush from the Paris Eternal. I think this year it's a little bit hard to pick. Like, I don't think any of the teams at the top are as dominant as like last year with the Shock, or if you wanted to pick like Pagion from the Titans last year. So I would have to go with Rush. Yeah, ain't picking him now.
No. Yeah, I think Rush is a very good shout. It wasn't somebody that immediately sprang to mind for me, but then when I saw it, being stated by other people, I thought about it a bit. I was like, yeah, can you imagine this Paris Eternal roster being touted as a top team at the beginning of this season? It's strange to even consider, and yet they have not just looked individually really good, but they've also just looked really good as a team. They've played a bunch of different metas and been very strong on
the only ones who thought they were going to be good were Sparkle fans and the French. I mean, that's about it.
And all of them were saying, all of the Sparkle fans as well were just saying, they just have to hang on. They just have to be 50-50 until it gets to Sparkle being released.
Yeah.
I mean, they've looked really good even without him. Like, they look like they might not even benefit from him in certain
They made No Smite look like an owl
Ben
player.
Best as well.
I mean, good lord, pulling players out of nowhere, right? Fielder comes in with 200 ping after both of their flex supports retire. That's wild. All right, sweet.
Yeah, totally crazy. And I think that some credit there has to be given to 9K as well, because even though he is the general manager, I feel like half of the reason that they made him general manager and didn't tell anybody at the beginning of the season is because he has some kind of coaching role as well. Like, you are not signing 9K and telling him to shut up and do general managerial duties. Like, they just ain't happening. This guy was on part of the greatest coaching staff of all time with the San Francisco Shock last year. Like, this guy knows his shit.
You'd see Flame with the Outlaws in the Blizzard Arena, and you're like, "Hey, you're the GM. Why are you sitting in the coaches area?" It's like you knew Flame was like over there giving some advice to the Outlaws. Early on.
I do feel like Flame and 9K are in slightly different boats, but I appreciate the analogy.
Yeah, a little bit of different boats, but
I think that Rush is definitely the forefront runner at the moment, or the forerunner. But I do think that there's something to be said about the teams that we expected to suck that are doing a lot better. Packing 10 in particular. I think that because not only there do you have the coaching aspect of it, but you also have the scouting aspect of it as well, which you can certainly say for somebody like Kuki, and you can certainly say for somebody like Rush to find Fielder or to find any of the guys that the Florida Mayhem managed to pick up this year, honestly. But Packing 10 really did find utterly unknown talents at some point, and managed to make them into a very coherent team. Maybe not as unknown as Fielder. You know, some of the guys that Packing 10 picked up were genuinely respected within their regions, just not expected to do well with an owl. But like a Gig Dreamer main tank line, like who the hell expected that to be any good? And Valiant have... Okay, they haven't been racking up the wins, but they've been in a pretty difficult division, and they've been performing well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I also wish we had some kind of award for like, I don't think it would be like almost like GM of the year, because like there are some
you mean like scouting, or do you mean just well-run organizations?
I think scouting plus like trades, right? Like I think like the Gladiators and the Fuel did a nice job, both of them retooling in the offseason to come back and be way more competitive. Would I say like Deepe or Aero would be like my coach of the year? I think there are some better candidates, but I think with the way that they've rebuilt those teams, they do deserve some type of like credit to that.
Sure, because for them, I mean, I would say especially for Aero that I don't really see much of the coaching of the Dallas Fuel being amazing, but the pickups to sign Decay and Doha, who were both
decisions in the offseason,
the offseason decisions were certainly good. And for Aero, we still had concerns. I certainly had concerns about the support line of the Dallas Fuel, but then they pick up Crimzo, who's ended up actually being pretty decent for that team. And especially when they play Dive, Gamsu and Note have been pretty good. So this is now a team that, okay, they're mostly getting carried by Decay and Doha, but those acquisitions fall on Aero's shoulders to be like, but props,
I do know a lot of Gladiators fans were incredibly worried coming into the season, and because it's such a drastic change from what they were, right?
Yeah.
You don't have any of your DPS from last year. You don't have either of your tanks from last year, and you were like a top 4 to 5 team last year.
Yeah, top 5 team for sure the entire season long.
And you're able to rebuild that roster through a series of like trades and good scouting and whatnot. And I think the coaching's solid, but I think like somebody like Rush probably deserves that.
Yeah, the thing with the Gladiators, in my opinion, is that I don't think they're a top 5 team anymore. I think they've slipped since then, and I think that you can see that in some of their recent performances, although we'll have to see them play a little bit more to figure that out completely. And I'm still not really convinced about Mirror and Jaru. Like they were a bit more of those out there pickups. Birdring though, to identify that he wasn't washed and actually just needed a new home.
He's played great.
He has played really well. But for OG and Space, I feel that's more of like these were people that were well rated within the community. Let's just throw some money at them. You know, those aren't like Gigabrain pickups like some of the others. They're more just well respected around the community, and we just threw enough money at them.
But still being able to get them and put them on the team.
I think though more credit has to be given for identifying Birdring as a talent that you can actually rely on, rather than just somebody that might dip. I mean, he also still has time to dip.
If you had to pick a coach from the Asian region, because we've talked really mostly about NA, where Asia, I feel like it was even hard to discuss MVP because it's all over the place in terms of results.
Yeah.
Do you like Moon from Shanghai?
See, that's so hard, isn't it? I mean, I'm immediately going to say...
I don't
I'm immediately going to say
so.
that NYXL haven't looked as good as they have previously, but if they can really turn it around and peak for the for the postseason, for the playoffs, or for these like tournaments that we are hopefully running every month, then I will have a lot of respect for IMT, because IMT last season in the playoffs was able to do a lot with that NYXL squad.
Yeah.
And so if he's always able to turn up in playoff scenarios, then I'm going to be rating him very highly. The other team that you have to consider is the Seoul Dynasty, but in my opinion, because they've just flopped in certain weeks when the meta hasn't been suitable for their players, I don't rate their coaching staff and what they've done really at all. I think that that's a good selection of players, but I haven't seen any positives from the coaching staff particularly, because coaching staffs are all about the consistency and about being able to adapt to certain metas, and that has been non-existent.
Yeah, I think you're looking at IMT and Moon.
Moon is super weird though, isn't it? Like, it's very strange.
You have to probably say Moon though, because like he's gotten a good use of just about everybody on that roster. They put together a good team, and they've been rotating them well and putting everybody in a position to succeed. I feel like you almost have to give it to Moon at this point.
Yeah, especially when you consider that there were a lot of question marks about Stand 1 coming in as a main tank. We thought that he would be a fairly large liability, considering that he only had reasonable success in contenders. He didn't look amazing, and he's coming into a literally like elite level team.
And also, to have Fearless, right, come back to the roster and be able to get use out of this guy.
Huge redemption story.
Think about, it's something we haven't seen in Overwatch League, and we may not see in a while. This guy played on a team that lost all 40 games, albeit he comes in halfway through the year. Then goes contenders, and a lot of people that go from Overwatch League to contenders don't like make it back.
Oh yeah, they very rarely rebound.
Fairly rarely rebound. And to rebound to be the main tank on arguably the best team in the region, splitting some time.
Arguably the best team in the world as well. Like Shanghai Dragons have looked there.
Yeah. It's a wild turnaround, which has to have some credit to coaching as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the more they get a handle on Lee Jae-gon, the more that I'll appreciate this coaching staff as well. Now, the difficulty for me...
He may be drinking on the job, Lee Jae-gon.
He's so good. He's so skilled, but he's also just mental. The risks that he takes.
Dude. He goes in and he just does the wildest things.
My issue, though, with the Shanghai Dragons coaching staff is not so much that I don't think their coaches are doing anything. I really do think that this coaching staff is good. It's just, who do you give the credit to? Because Moon in the past has not been the most successful. We know him from such great hits as Let's Run Kookie on main support. Let's Run Kookie on main support. And then the other people that they've had on their coaching staff, the other assistant coaches, I feel like this is one of those situations, Matt. I might be wrong, but I feel like this is one of those situations where the assistant coaches, there's like one assistant coach that's really magical and is doing a lot of the work here, or maybe a couple of them. Dongsu is a player that's been with the LA Valiant before in the past as well, and okay, but I never really heard of him that much, so I'm not really looking towards him. Jay Phil used to work with the London Spitfire, and I was never really impressed with the London Spitfires.
Their coaching was never really that great.
So I'm not really thinking about him. Now, Kong has worked with some good teams in the past. He worked with Mighty AOD, I think at the same time as Krusty did, though might be wrong there. I don't know whether Krusty ever actually worked with Mighty AOD. I think he worked with the previous version of him. Worked with Ardion as well. So he's worked with like two sets of very good players in contenders regions. Then went to Shanghai Dragons, didn't really perform, and then came back to Shanghai. There's something going on here with the Shanghai Dragons coaching staff, and we need more info. I'm not ready yet to just give Moon the credit.
What's your opinion on if London kind of kept a winning pace in Agape?
Now, that is a good question, and also something that I was interested in bringing up. Because if they do...
They have Pavane on that coaching staff as well. That's like a lot of experienced coaches.
It is a lot of experienced coaches. It's also a lot of experienced coaches that ended up leaving their previous jobs. Yeah, you've got Nugget, who used to work, I think, for Seoul. Is that right, or was that London? Yeah, that was the Seoul Dynasty. And I'm not...
You have Awesome Guy, who used to play for the Mayhem.
Yeah, and I think that Awesome Guy has done a good job at scouting as well. He's somebody that's had credit assigned to him for being able to scout very effectively for this London Spitfire roster, which did pick up a huge amount of rookie talent. And then you have Pavane, who Nugget. I'm totally wrong. He played for he's coach for the NYXL. I'm just
Pavane went to London from New York, and then Nugget went to New York.
Yeah, but Agape and Pavane have both worked on teams previously. Agape worked for London and didn't really get many results, I think, and hasn't been too highly rated from people that have been close to his work. And Pavane as well was in a situation where I don't think he got the most out of New York, but they are incredibly experienced. And so if they continue to
out of this team,
they are getting a decent amount out of this team. I wouldn't say that they are making this roster into world beaters, and they are working with some decent pieces. Like Bernard, we always knew was decent. Glister, we always knew was decent.
If there's no clear-cut choice, though, in the Asia region, and this team sneaks into the top 4, they're almost like nobody expected Paris Eternal and A. Everybody was picking London, making a joke out of the roster at the beginning of the year. Where I think that they would deserve some credit.
I think they do deserve some credit. And particularly, I would be looking at Awesome Guy, because I don't know what his role is in terms of coaching or like player or strategy or anything like that. But from reports coming out from London Spitfire, he was involved very heavily in scouting these players. And I think that the scouting was one of the major regions where London has done well, because they picked up players that weren't that sought after, but did have a lot of talent, like particularly Glister. I can't believe that London managed to scoop up this guy. And then they've managed to do great things with, like, Although has had a very good May in the times that they've played him, and but to be able to sweep up like Benar as well as Shui.
Yeah, I was gonna say Benar,
and find J-Mac in Chinese contenders as well, and he's actually been fairly decent. That was a big risk, but it's paid off.
It's hard to even find the stream for Chinese contenders. I don't know where
it is. It really is. How to find the stream for any contenders these days, man?
Come on, man. So I think those are some of the ones we like. I like Rush from the Paris Eternal. I like Packington from the Valiant. I think as a dark horse in APAC, I would say Agape and the staff of the London Spitfire, because I think with the way APAC is right now, it's just kind of all over the place at the top. And I think if one of those teams can sneak in, like a London, I think their coaching staff probably gets the love.
Yeah, very interesting. I think that the coaching scene as well, we need more reports from the players. So if you're a player and you're watching this, because you just need that ego boost.
Detail.
Yeah, try and tweet a little bit more about coaches.
To let us know they're good. Well, you take the money and let us know.
Exactly. And okay, if your coach is shite, don't tweet about them. Don't say anything. I'm not saying that you have to call them out publicly.
Don't tell us. We don't want to know.
But if they're great, then feel free to sing their praises everywhere. Because that's just good business, That's how you raise the stock of everybody involved in your organization.
Exactly.
And if you're a no-name, no-nothing who just hangs around on Reddit, then by all means, be like Bren and spurt your thoughts out into the atmosphere. Give us a comment on the YouTube.
Bren's an example of every comment matters.
Every comment matters. All right, give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you on the next Plat Chat head-to-head.